ReBoot is a third-person platformer shooter developed by Electronic Arts and released to the PlayStation in 1998.
Ah yes, 90s EA, a time before the onslaught of questionable releases coated in the rotting stench of studios long past.
Electronic Arts had notable, unique releases back then, and in this case, they made a licensed tie-in to a beloved Canadian animated series.
ReBoot! Now you might not be familiar with the show, or are more familiar with its newer incarnation.
After 20 years of waiting, it's finally happened. Mainframe is back online.
This cat looks totally scrumptious. Wait, do I actually want to eat a cat? No, I definitely do not. I would like to cuddle it.
But the original ReBoot was groundbreaking. It was the first fully CG animated television show in the world.
It was a family-friendly series that took place inside a computer. Characters were included as humanoid versions of common computer elements, and storylines cleverly combined tech references with enjoyable narratives in a way for all audiences to enjoy.
Early seasons of ReBoot followed Bob, who was a guardian. He served as a kind of computer world sheriff. Many stories had him face off with viruses bent on infecting the system they were in, called Mainframe.
But that's not all. Bob was also tasked with protecting Mainframe from various games that would be deployed by the system's user for fun. These would be represented by gigantic purple columns of energy that dropped from the sky. Any of Mainframe's citizens trapped within these columns were forced to play against the user.
This was an interesting concept, as it basically made the ambiguous gaming user, someone like us, the antagonist interrupting life in Bob's world. If the user was fended off, Mainframe and all citizens trapped in game were saved.
Bob and I are sharing a camaraderie after the game.
If not...
Game over. User wins.
The whole sector's nullified. Offline.
Ouch! Anyway, today we're looking at a video game based on a show where characters jump into various video games. This series was basically made to be a video game. What could go wrong?
Warning. Incoming game.
Oh boy! Let's hop on a zipboard to adventure in ReBoot.
The game begins with a pre-rendered cutscene in the style of the original series. In it, villains Megabyte and Hexadecimal collude to try and take control of Mainframe.
What a delight! It will catch everyone by surprise.
In a move very fitting of his character, Megabyte backstabs Hexadecimal by performing their planned weapons test directly on her lair, making it explode and seemingly taking her out. With Hexadecimal out of his way, Megabyte now uses unstable system energy, or tears in the system's code, to destabilize Mainframe and make it easier for him to take control. Cut to a much less impressive cinematic utilizing in-game graphics. Look! It's Budget Bob! He's talking to series regular Enzo, explaining that he's searching the area for disturbances.
I'm scanning for disturbances.
Suddenly, disturbances!
Incoming tears.
The system announces an evacuation as the aforementioned tears are popping up. Enzo heads off and we can finally get into the action. Here we're treated to a surprisingly detailed environment. Oh hey, there's Dot's Diner! That's a staple character meetup place from the show. But what are we actually supposed to do here? We haven't really been given any goals. And fans of ReBoot might have noticed this already, but... why does Bob have a gun? Yeah, notice this on the cover of the game as well. There's Bob brandishing a bulky sidearm and some laser scope-inspired eyepiece.
Laser scope.
Give the command with the power in your voice.
In the original series, Bob lived by one main directive: to mend and defend.
To mend and defend.
Offense wasn't part of his gig. His character focused on clever strategy and his multi-tool device glitch to get him out of sticky situations. Our boy Bob ain't no killer. Basically, outside of the video games that Bob and other citizens of Mainframe took part in, he never ever used a firearm to solve problems.
I don't think so.
So where did this gun come from? Well, it's from a random game that they went into in episode 5 of season 1. Same gun, same eye patch too. More importantly though, the gun in that episode wasn't really a gun. Yep, it shot harmless bubbles to entrap foes. It's a kid's show, people. Wonder how it works in the game.
Bob, you must not shoot civilians.
To mend and defend.
More like to end and attend a funeral.
Anyway, Bob's not the only one with firepower. In this game, you'll face turrets and enemy combatants that'll fire on you constantly, whittling down your health.
Oh, here's another in-game cutscene. The camera pans down the street to show a familiar glowing ball of energy. Looks like we've got a tear here, people.
And the freshly sprung energy ball isn't the only new addition. Now we have a timer.
We don't like timers! As you may have guessed, if the clocker counts down to 0, it's not good. So we have a situation where we need to complete an objective super quickly. Now, what could possibly get in the way of that?
It sort of feels like a skateboarding game. Unfortunately though, games like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater weren't around at this point to provide inspiration for the dev team.
Here, you get no break, no stop button. Every little push carries momentum that keeps you trucking long after you've pressed anything. Just look at this. This is the only form of transportation in the game, and it feels like you're moving on ice. Every level is an ice level! Yay!
We eventually managed to use our zip board, Bob's weird floating travel pad device, to sadly wobble hover to our first tear. We need to close it.
And fun thing about tears, they do not want to be closed. They have a natural gravity that pulls Bob in, only to zap and launch him away if he touches them.
What this means is that you'll need to get close, but not too close. Then spam the controls to limit Bob's movement in an attempt to stay relatively stationary. Because, again, you don't have a break or stop button to hold Bob in position. Bob will stumble to use his multi-tool glitch to kinda auto-lock on and mend the tear.
And that lock on? Good luck! You'll be right next to a tear, desperately trying to keep Bob still, and glitch will not lock. This leads to plenty of lost time, and in a game with a timer, I think even Bob himself would agree.
This is bad. This is very bad.
In the first 2 levels, you feel like you're given ample time to mend the tears, but almost all of it is wasted as poor Bob drunkenly surfs nowhere near where you need him to go.
And this is with readily accessible out in the open tears. It's not always that simple. Sometimes they're positioned in such a way that this happens.
It's nigh impossible to get the camera to face where you need it. Get used to facing the wrong direction.
Can you see why this might be frustrating? It's so hard to lock on the tears!
And they're not the only things that need to be locked on and dispatched. Bob also relies on a form of auto-aiming for his gun to target baddies. Again, he needs to be a particular distance away and facing his foes to actually lock on.
Here, there's a flying enemy tank shooting up friendly cars in the area. Killing civilians in our town? I don't think so. Did you see that? We took out our first actual enemy.
And it only took 58 direct hits.
But you shouldn't always rely on spamming the fire button with the auto-aim.
Bob, you must not shoot civilians.
Why would you make an auto-aim that aims at things you're not supposed to aim at? It's automatic. The user has zero control as to where Bob aims.
But the game isn't just about untearing tears and accidentally incinerating the innocent. In ReBoot, we're also introduced to a whole load of platforming.
Remember that whole ice level movement thing? Well, this game gives you all those slippery sways and then demands perfect platforming to acquire various items needed to progress. Unfortunately, jumping isn't just a simple button push. No, you need to hold the button for Bob to squat down, building up flames beneath his zipboard. When you let go, Bob will get a small rocket-propelled hop in the direction he's moving.
Bad momentum plus terrible controls multiplied by awful platforming equals a slippery poopy old time with loads of silly deaths.
Did we mention all of this is done with a D-pad? Because all of this is done with a D-pad.
Wait. Here. The game case says it's analog controller compatible.
Compatible? Yeah. Turning on analog mode just maps the 4-button inputs of the D-pad to the left controller stick.
What? Sonic R did the exact same thing. It's fake analog.
What's worse, the right stick? It does nothing. Zip!
Anyway, after dealing with the annoyance that was the first few tears in this game, we're no longer at the whim of a countdown timer. The mini-map shows the locations of various keycards we've yet to pick up that are needed to exit the level.
The roof that our first keycard sits on is conveniently next to a mini skate park with ramps. We figured this is how we're supposed to nab it.
You think that this would be easy, but it's not. Bob not only slips around everywhere, but his jump ability is totally sloppy. It is crazy frustrating, but at least we've got all the time in the world now, as we're no longer on the clock.
After you clear the tears, you're free to roam the level. Snag weapon upgrades, extra lives, or just head to the exit.
Level complete.
That's the gameplay loop. Load level, mend 3 tears, remove the time limit, then leisurely free roam the map, scooping up exit keys. Simple objectives.
Key acquired.
Until we hit the 3rd level. Prior to this, platforming was inaccurate and a pain to do correctly, but there was no real punishment for failure.
Here though, the level takes place in a kind of industrial plant and half the level contains platforms that hover over an open sewer. You see where this is going, don't you?
Yeah! Right in the poop pit! You will fail and find yourself down in the muck, needing to find your way back out. Better be quick.
Because of the timer?
No, because of this. A giant monster sewer snake.
You can try to fight it if you want, but you're better off avoiding it.
Game over.
It dives under the sludge so you can't target it and then pops back up to attack wherever it wants. Its bite annihilates your health bar.
And did we mention that this crap snake is guarding a tear?
Great, so while we fruitlessly wrestle the controls to lock on long enough to mend the tear, we also have to juggle worrying about...
Game over.
And though that maggoty sewer freak feels like some kind of boss encounter, it's not. We didn't get to the game's first official boss battle until level 6. And woo! It's a curveball.
I guess we can call this some kind of boss chase sequence. We have to travel down a linear path, facing off against a large entity in possession of a tear.
That sounds simple enough. Just pew-pew the boss and mend the tear. Easy, right?
Simple? Yes. Easy. No, a tear's involved. This means the level's timed, and if you're using your default pistol, it's going to be a long time before you make even a dent in the boss's health gauge.
Basically, if you didn't search around previous levels picking up weapon upgrades, you're in for a pretty miserable time. You'll probably want to restart the whole game just to find them.
And you probably want to find lives too while you're at it, because with these bosses, you'll need them.
What I love about this first boss, as crappy as the encounter is that he just kind of gives up when there are 10 seconds left on the clock.
Huh, I've never seen a boss just lose interest and fly away. But this is the ReBoot video game, and I honestly can't blame him. Take us with you!
No.
If you're quick and very lucky, you can swoop in and mend the tear that the boss shrugged and plopped down. Huzzah! Boss fight! Boss not fight. Complete!
Unfortunately, the game continues. Megabyte unleashes more tears than the Doom guy enjoying string cheese.
Rip and tear! Rip and tear!
And it's up to Bob to hop and mend.
But wait, as a fan of the original series, I'm noticing a distinct lack of purple GameCubes.
No, not those adorable Nintendo lunchboxes. These. The energy column thingies from earlier. A huge part of the appeal of the original series was seeing what interesting video game scenario the characters would be tossed into. There were fantasy games, racers, sci-fi space shooters. We could add level after level in a fun new setting, all the while fending off the user, making sure they don't beat the game and cause a section of mainframe to be wiped out.
The whole whole sector's nullified!
But no! What we get here is the equivalent of a digital janitor cleaning up garbage code before it explodes. Great!
Oh, I wish things got more interesting. The basic enemies you face throughout the game are all introduced by the 7th level. You got your turret, and you got your two kinds of binomes. This round boy with a shock stick, and this squarish fella that keeps moving out of range and locking onto you to blast you from afar.
While the types of foes don't increase, the difficulty sure does. The game spices up the overall experience with additional challenges.
And it's done well?
Nope, it's a total fail.
Guardian deleted.
You know how locking onto enemies is a pain? Well, they have zero problem targeting Bob, sometimes through solid objects, and proceed to fire direct hits before we're ever aware they exist.
Throughout the game, enemies are placed in the most infuriating locations, making platforming unfairly difficult. Sometimes you only need to glance at enemy placement, your health, and then you will immediately do the mental math that there's no way you won't be vaporized because you will take damage.
And then there's this guy.
This stony arm flailing nightmare can be described as a mini boss. He can also be described as one of the most rage-inducing obstacles in the puddle of awful that is this game. He doesn't really attack, not directly, nor can he be targeted and killed. Cool! He holds a tear and loves to cuddle up close. You know what that means.
Game over.
Come on, Bob! You can do it!
No, Enzo, I really don't think so.
We have the gravity field of the tear pulling us in, this cycloptic stone creep endlessly trying to get close, and the game still wants us to stay a reasonable distance away to mend the tear.
What kind of sick creature gets enjoyment out of playing this sort of game?
Eventually, we sealed the tear, but just barely.
And the game keeps hammering home its inflated difficulty through enemy positioning. Look at how these turrets are set up.
You're basically forced to enter the pool here, but it's so small you can barely dodge enemy fire. And then you have to contend with a freaking tear pulling and blasting you away.
Oh, you'll die. And when you game over and restart, guess who you'll have to deal with again? No checkpoint!
Delete this game.
Yes, the game does try to offset crazy difficulty spikes with weapon upgrades like the blaster or the rockets to make enemies die faster. But it doesn't stop there. You also get upgrades to Bob's multi-tool, Glitch.
These upgrades include a mortar, flamethrower, and a freeze weapon known as the box gun. So why don't these weapons make the game easier? Because the upgrades to your pistol and Glitch run on special energy pickups.
Every level has health and energy pickups to find, but there's not much. You're mostly going to rely on drops from the bad guys to charge your attacks.
Once you take out an enemy, drops will sort of explode out from them, hooted from their husk. You gotta scoot over and scoop them up quick, because they can disappear. Or worse, they can just fly off the map completely.
And if you're using Glitch for both attacking and mending, then you have to remember to toggle between abilities. If you're not paying attention, you might accidentally attack a tear instead of mend it and waste your precious energy reserves.
So with energy pickups rare than stringy cheese in hell,
Rip and tear!
most likely you'll be using Bob's totally canonical basic pistol to fend off baddies. Sure, it's nice to have a default weapon that can always be used, but we all know just how useful this pistol is.
Believe it or not, the pistol becomes even more useless as you proceed through the game, because while the enemy roster doesn't really change beyond what we've already mentioned, their ability to absorb damage does.
Huh. Must have built up an immunity to being shot in the face. Could have sworn this took like 2 bullets a couple levels ago.
And if you collect enough energy to power your special weapons, you'll find they're actually not much better. For example, the Glitch Flamethrower requires you to be so close to enemies, you may as well be offering them a breath mint. When you have no distance between you and the enemies, you're basically guaranteed to take damage.
As for your freeze attack, it's short and it sucks. Can Bob target frozen enemies? No, he can't. Bob can't lock onto something that is perfectly still and defenseless, because that would be useful.
And finally, there's the mortar, an explosive weapon with limited ammo capacity. What can we say about it? When it works, it works.
Enemy destroyed.
When it doesn't, Yay! Okay! So, if you've mastered your weapons, skills, and, let's face it, tumbled through with blind luck, you'll hit the other 2 boss chase missions.
First up is a web creature, a super rare and extremely dangerous being from the ReBoot series. Now, if you get too close to this critter, it lunges. This move is an instant KO. We learned this, and then relearn this, and then relearn this several times.
Right. Obviously, that's not working. What if we fly over the web creature and try to heal the tear behind it?
Right.
Right.
Wait, hold on. Missiles seem to work? Why weren't they working a minute ago?
Oh, turns out old Webby here has moments of invulnerability. You need to identify those and hold on to your energy. He also has a move where he turtles up and you can't shoot him then either.
Conserving energy is a necessity. You do not want to try to take this thing out with your pistol.
We're looking at some serious downtime here.
After a whole lot of trial and error, we take the dang thing down. But it's not over yet. On to the lingering tear, which keeps passing over speed bumps in the level.
As you might imagine, Glitch doesn't like locking onto a dippy ball of energy. Real hard to position yourself properly, not hard to take a beating from the tear.
The next chase-style boss is the Giant Binome, a linear encounter that includes a mini platforming section. Unlike previous boss levels, this one has additional enemies to contend with at the same time.
Once you drop its health bar, he ejects his lower body and draws a new bar. You need to keep the heat on him while dodging attacks, turret shots, and navigating the terrain that swoops on by.
Of course, like the web creature before, it's not enough to just blast this boss into submission. There's also the issue of the tear.
And maybe you managed to kill the Binome early by some miracle. You may think, hey, I still have almost a whole minute to mend this thing. Easy peasy, right? Think again.
Remember how tears are easiest to mend when they're stationary and not much is happening around you? Well, this is the atmosphere we need to mend this thing in.
Not only do you need to handle platforming and dodging, but additional enemies are still firing on you.
It's one thing for a game to add mechanics in later levels to bolster a satisfying challenge to overcome, but this is ludicrous.
Later on, the platforming becomes more obnoxious. Level 13 is known as Floating Point Park. Can you guess why they call it that?
Now's a better time than any to talk about another of Glitch's features.
Glitch! Grapple!
A grappling hook to help swing Bob to safety.
There's a catch though, isn't there?
Glitch! Grapple!
The damn thing runs off energy.
Glitch! Grapple!
No energy, no grapple.
In some instances, when Glitch does happen to save you, it'll spawn you super close to a tear and... Thanks, Glitch!
If you don't get good at platforming real fast, you'll be wasting all your weapon energy on grappling and then be left with your pea shooter of a pistol to fight off enemies.
This is a waking digital nightmare. Why did they think fans would want to play this?
Well, if they couldn't entice viewers with the promise of having their own adventures in the world of ReBoot, they may still have gotten a few fans to bite with this.
Good gosh, an exclusive episode of ReBoot, one you won't find anywhere else.
But that exclusive episode isn't presented in a traditional manner, as in there's no option on the main menu to watch the full episode that's been shipped on the disc.
Mainly because there isn't one.
There are traditional ReBoot-style cutscenes that progress the story, sure, but they're blended in with pre-rendered in-game scenes, and let's face it, this
over my deleted bitmap
is not on the same level as this.
Fine, I've mended the tear and secured the area.
This
mainframe was fine before Bob arrived.
Is not on the same level as this.
His name is Bob, you know.
Sometimes they take in-game visuals and animate over top of them when Bob gets a call through Glitch.
You've done well, Guardian. Mainframe appreciates your efforts.
That there's a rough look. Jumping back and forth between visual styles? Not alphanumeric.
Oh, and a big chunk of this exclusive episode is made up of fail state animations you get after you've completely run out of lives. Bob's failure and multiple character deaths don't seem like they should be part of a canon exclusive episode.
Hey kids, wanna see an exclusive episode of ReBoot? Here's Bob and Dot's stuffed corpses, humiliatingly encased in glass.
If you can't love them, stuff them.
They're f***ing dead! dead!
Even if you stacked all the cutscenes together, the story is blander than tap water. For a game with 19 levels, you'd think there would be something interesting going on.
Paying attention to it as a fan, however, will confuse you. As best as we can tell, the whole game takes place before the very first episode of the series.
Remember Dot's Diner from the first level? It said grand opening over the entrance. In the very first episode of ReBoot, the diner was open already. Frisket, a full-grown dog by the time we got to see him in the series, is shown here as a puppy.
Cool, that's fine. What isn't is that characters show up in this prequel that Bob hasn't met yet in the series by this point, like Mike the TV. Or heck, even the web creature that appeared later in the series shouldn't be here yet.
Good job making a game for fans. It's not like they would totally notice all this is wrong like we did.
Near the end of the game, we get the final level type, the boss arena. Here you have one main boss, potentially with some enemies guarding them in a circular room. You fight to the death. No tears, few power-ups, a massive test of your skills and luck and
deleted.
Patience.
The first of the two final battles is against Megabyte. Getting close to him is a bad idea because of a Gatling gun he has attached to his chair.
When you upgrade the system, you throw out the trash.
He's fucking dead!
By this point, you'll hopefully have access to things like max level missiles. So as long as you keep the energy pickups in mind, this fight isn't all that hard.
The actual final boss of the game though, Hexadecimal, is far less of a cakewalk.
Deleted.
Her portraits spin around the central platform, and when they stop spinning, they attack you with electric blasts, no matter where you are. Think you can hide behind the wall? Go try that.
There's nowhere to take cover, and Hex shoots energy blasts straight at you. You're expected to get close enough to attack her without dying.
But we did it. We made it through all 19 of ReBoot's levels, mended tears, conquered bosses, and eventually took down the Queen of Chaos herself, Hexadecimal.
Oh, it's finally over.
You have saved Mainframe, but I regret there is some terrible news. We have suffered many casualties.
Where's my brother?
I'm afraid he did not survive, my child.
Wait, what? How is this an ending for the game? It feels like we lost.
We did.
We what?
Turns out we were not playing the game right. See, every once in a while, when you get a game over, you're treated to this.
Remember, the future is not written in ROM. The game player with the fastest clock speed will journey first to the ultimate ending.
You get the cryptic message? In order to clear the game properly, in order to see the good ending, you not only need to beat the game, you need to beat it fast.
Fast? How fast?
Remember all those times we finished mending tears and thought, oh, we could just leisurely prance around the level picking up useful upgrades? We were wrong. Sure, when you handle the level's tears, the timer goes away, but does the clock really stop ticking?
No! A non-displayed secret timer is still going strong. Make it through on time, you get a good cutscene. Be slow, get a bad one.
If you're playing through without the knowledge of this hidden countdown clock, you'd never know that some cutscenes are bad and some are good.
We just thought Bob was having an awful day. Take too long, you fail. So no, don't try to bolster your life count or equipment. Don't prepare for enemies. Don't try to squeeze out a modicum of enjoyment from this overwhelmingly underwhelming experience. Rush!
ReBoot for the PlayStation is a poorly conceived tie-in that, despite containing some original content that fans may enjoy, is such a fumble of ideas and execution that it seems to forget the very show it was supposed to represent.
The original ReBoot television series showcased a variety of interesting scenarios and mock video games while unfolding a compelling narrative. It was cleverly referential and created an absolutely engaging inner computer world.
Boiling all that down to a single character haphazardly bouncing around terrible spaces, closing balls of light, and clumsily shooting things is a total waste. Pure and simple.
In the end, it really should have been so much more.
Oh, speaking of the end, what happens if you do rush through the game and get the good ending?
Not much. Enzo congratulates you and Dot gives Bob a big ol' smackaroo.
Huh. That's a lot of hassle for not so much payoff.
Yep.
Hey, but at least we beat the game! We won!
Yeah!
Yeah!
Game over. User wins. Game over. User wins.
It's just bad.